Live from Spare Bedroom Studios, you are listening to Under PDT.
Thanks, guys, for checking out the second episode of Under PDT. On today's episode, we have both Wes and I's long and short of the week. We're going to go through SAEX, JAGX, TLRY, and how we think they might just be the most successful OTC stock of all time. And yes, we know they're not actually OTC. And how the pot mania is slowly but surely going away for good, and I'm not really that sad about it.
I don't know if they're going away for good. That is, and I kind of wish they would a little bit. I guess I'm okay with all of it in reason, but I can't see them going away for good as long as Forbes continues to pump these articles about their projections for 2021. 2021 and marijuana, for some reason, is a crucial year.
Yeah, 2021 is like it's like this. It's like Forbes has a cult following of pot writers who are like, that's when the second coming is going to occur. It's going to be in 2021.
It's Y2K of pot.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. I know what you mean that they're not done for good. I'm just happy that that my peanut brain isn't staring at NBEV every second of the day.
Yes.
Because I actually got very lucky from our last podcast. I did end up green by the skin on my teeth. And frankly, it was luck. I was trading like shit and then sugarcoating it. But I mean, even an idiot can end up green on that major washout they had. We were both saying we don't trade manias well. And the day after we did the podcast, we were going to come back with a second episode. We were like, this is just going to be called Fuck Manias. But
yes, that's how I feel about them.
That's how I feel about them too. I'm happy that it's not at the forefront of my brain right now. We're a little bit more in just like a little bit of a low float craze at the moment.
Well, and then you have these stocks come up and they put out PRs, after the weed stocks have cracked, and you're just thinking,
who the fuck are you, man?
Like, why would you wait that long?
Perfect use of the soundboard, I have to say. I think that's the first time we brought out the soundboard on the podcast. Absolutely perfect use of it. Some of these PRs are it's insane, the timing. Like, why weren't you guys a week earlier with this? You would have done so much better. And we were clamoring for really crappy stocks to get moving and little sympathy movers that are easy to kind of hammer. And we didn't really get it. And now all of a sudden you get these, the idiotic PRs like, oh, we're going Interexon yesterday. We're going to start cultivating marijuana. Like, what a breakthrough. So some 14-year-old in his room in Poughkeepsie is going to be doing that too, by the way. But, yeah, I know what you're saying, and that it's a shame it's too little too late. Although it is funny I say that because Interexon kind of did move and set up a decent trade off that.
It did. And then you had APD in today, which was a really shitty little stock. And I saw a couple people chirping about it this morning, trying to get it moving, but it didn't get the legs. I think it's done.
I know. I was hopeful for APDN, but yeah, it was very feeble off the gap up. It did. It went to microcap hell pretty much immediately. And I mean, if you look at its 1 year chart, it's been in microcap hell.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. There was a little glimmer of hope there this morning that did not last long at all. Well,
there has to be motivation for an underwriter to get you out of microcap hell.
Yeah, there has to be there's got to be an ulterior motive. There's very few microcaps that can either do it by the merit of the company or literally pull themselves up by their bootstraps and make it work, either with market makers or with PRs. No, you need to create an ulterior motive. You need to have someone else a third party who's bigger, badder, more powerful, incentivized to basically make you thrive. Now, Before we get too carried away screaming about how much we love and hate the market at the same time, we're going to do a little segment called our long and short of the weeks. This is not going to be actual trades for the most part. Who knows? Maybe one day we'll put a trade on there. But this is just going to be different things happening in the world during the week that we are either long or short. And I'll let you kick it off.
So I'm along Tiger Woods going to the Ryder Cup. The win was huge on Sunday. I actually got to go Saturday and Thursday and saw him play a couple of holes. And I actually hit on him on my first big winning sports bet. And he had 10-1 odds. I took the bet on Wednesday. And in Twitter dollars, I put down $10 million. So as you guys can tell, I'm one of the wealthiest people on Twitter now, thanks to Tiger Woods. So that's pretty sweet.
MGM might be filing as MGMQ after having to pay out your bet.
That's right.
Yes.
And then I am short the retail getting into private markets. So the SEC is implying that they are going to go ahead with allowing for private retail to get into private markets. And that is just going to spell disaster for the uninformed that will be getting in. Because there's that old saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And there's still a lot of well-connected people in the private markets that will know a lot more about a deal than you will. Also, I think 60% of startups right now are failing.
I'm not going to lie. I would hammer the over on that. I don't know what constitutes a startup, if maybe a business has to meet a certain threshold, but my guess would be higher than that, and by quite a bit too.
Yeah, so that's my short of the week. I don't think that retail will do well in the private markets because it's going to be the Wild West. If there's some way that we can actually get short on some of these, that'll be great too. But
I know we have to come up with like the broker that takes prop bets on getting short private stock or private companies. What's funny is that people have access to all of the dealings in public companies and they don't use it as is. What makes you think they're going to do diligence and be successful private market investors? I mean, it is hilarious that they go so far as to tolerate an antic like this, but the PDT rule still exists. The only good thing about the PDT rule is the name it gave us for this podcast.
That's it.
Yep.
That's it.
So my long of the week, we're 3 weeks in to the NFL season, and I am long people who don't talk about their fantasy football team. People who talk too much about their fantasy football team are like people who talk all the time about their winning trades and never mention their losing ones. It's annoying. We really don't care that much. Oh, did you score 202 points last week? Guess what? I don't care. It just does nothing for me. Am I bitter that I'm 0-3? For sure. Will it make me angry if you tell me about how you're 3-0? Yes. If it comes up in the context of a conversation where we're talking about fantasy football, so be it. But when I say to you, hey, man, what beer do you want? Where do you want to go to dinner? And you say, do you think I should pick up Le'Veon Bell? Are they going to sign him to this extension? I'm long people who don't talk about it. Just put it that way. We'll leave it at that. And
I'm with you there.
Short of the week, I'm short the mainstream. I think I'll probably go somewhere in this vein a lot in my shorts of the week. My short of the week is the mainstream financial media speculating on what Jerome Powell's going to do with his Fed decision. We're recording this Tuesday, 2:30 Eastern, Fed day tomorrow. So basically 24 hours from now, we'll find out that maybe he raised 0.25%, maybe he didn't. But listen, I will put myself on record and I will come back next episode and say I look like a complete idiot if I'm wrong. This whole 0.5% nonsense, I'm going to bet against that. And I wish CNBC would stop insinuating that, it might happen just for page views. That's really bad clickbait. Like, come up with something better than that for clickbait. Tell me why, I'm going to be upside down on my mortgage for the rest of my life because you found some weird technical chart pattern. Don't give me this Jerome Powell stuff.
The Powell.
They could really learn from Zero Hedge how to do clickbait.
Oh, yeah. They're the masters of clickbait. Until you figure out that they're all just propaganda as well.
Yeah, and it's funny because they do just enough of mixing in some really substantial statistics and insightful stuff, but then they're and that's why we're basically going to be hunter-gatherers next Tuesday. And then you're
yes.
Okay, well, you lost me there because I don't think that's going to happen. So, yeah, man, I guess we'll kick this off. SAEX. That was a pretty wacky mover yesterday and not much volume, but pulling back today.
It's just the reflex after a mania. You get low float garbage, start running. Now, crude has been trending up. So some of these thin oil stocks just get a nice pump on them. But then this morning, it just dies. Yeah. But yeah, that was quite the move yesterday. What are we looking at here? We opened up this was at 10:45 a.m. No,
yeah.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
It didn't have any life in it at 10:45 a.m. No volume. And then it opened up in that candle at low of 8:15 and ran to 32 within 2 hours. Not bad.
No, that's not a bad day at all. Pretty damn good move for them. It is funny you bring up crude because I was looking at some commodity prices today, actually, from some links you were sending me, and I saw crude in the 70s. I was like, when the hell did that happen? Can you just rewind me to like when we were all scared that crude was going to get so cheap that all these like American companies were going to go bankrupt and it was going to seriously affect our GDP? I think this was early 2015. Now here we are, it's pretty much straight up. You're definitely right. Crude is a great catalyst for unbelievably bad microcap companies because if there's a business you can't make it in without substantial capital, it is crude oil. And so these companies are terrible. I will give like a little fundamental note on them is that they had a ton of warrants tied to preferred stock that after the split came way in the money here. And I think this is a situation where DD could do you a disservice because it's so far in the money. You might think, well, of course the sell pressure is going to come in, but the volume relative to their float, man. I mean, they did a 1 for 20 fairly recently. This is an incredibly thin stock.
It is.
It went insane. I actually made a little bit of money long just on that premise that they were going to need a lot of volume because if you adjusted the conversion where the warrants were from the preferred shares, I didn't do the math out, but it's in the teens. And in the teens, I was thinking, well, they're going to need a lot of volume above this to be able to flip it because they were generally illiquid. I'm not sure if you remember the spread was going between 40 and 50 cents. And
Oh, yeah.
I took a very, very, very tiny long that did work out, but did I emphasize tiny, like baby kitten size?
Hey, man, win's a win, W's a W.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, today they've traded 500,000 shares today, and it feels like less than that.
Oh, much less. It's just dead. It actually hasn't traded. Oh, no, it just did make a print a minute ago. But I'm looking at my screen. It's got 6 prints on the screen.
Yeah, and we're looking at a spread. We're looking at 1315 by 1388.
Yeah, that's a little tough to navigate.
Yeah, that's not going to work. That's you're just paying the market maker if you go on either end of that.
Today's big trender, though, has been JAGX, or as I like to call it, JAGX. I do remember actually shorting this thing off my phone while I was in a vet appointment with my dog. So that made me feel good.
Nice.
But yeah, I actually took a loss on this thing earlier. I got short in like the 150 area and held it through all these halts it had between, 10 o'clock and 10:30 and 11:30.
Mm-hmm.
And then once it started to reclaim, I gave it just a little bit of room and it started to reclaim around noon. And when something starts getting some strength and some big volume going into the lunch hour, I typically stay away. Even if it's strong and it's low volume in the lunch hour, I want to stay away. It's easy to move a stock in between 11:30 and noon. Or I'm sorry, 11:30 and 2 on low volume. Right now, it's halted to the downside. But what's over under how many halts have we had today?
Oh my God. I'm going to go ahead and say in the teens. I'm going to go 14.
Okay. We're going to have to go back and count after the show.
Yeah,
I didn't count beforehand.
This morning, I'm sure you were watching. I had a short on JAGX early as well that I got stopped break even. And what you alluded to, I think, is a good rule of thumb, particularly with securities that are trading volume that they never typically trade, which JAGX is doing way easily the highest volume of the year. They really haven't had many major volume days at all this year. And then we're looking at today they're going to be, by the end of the podcast, they'll be at 40 million traded. They're at 38.9 right now.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm getting carried away. Your point of like strength into the midday is definitely a good one. I would double down and say that when you have unusual volume, be especially on your toes. I got stopped break even. I think this has been a major headache. I saw some of the more prevalent chat rooms talking about how confident they were getting short, and that is a recipe for disaster.
Yes, in this kind of volume, it usually is. Yeah. And I still have shorts on in IGC and Cron. I've got IGC from Friday and Cron from last Wednesday. And Cron has actually been trading pretty heavy today.
And no CGC, right?
No CGC. I covered that one up that day flat. And I saw actually this morning it had quite a bit of strength to it off that Aurora report.
Yeah, it did. It did.
But yeah, Cron, I mean, I've got a 1476 average, so I'm not letting that go anytime soon.
It's kind of easy to forget because you group them in with all these other stocks, but CGC is actually like a company.
It is the legit one.
Right, it's actually a company. Just Tilray stole the thunder.
It stole all the thunder. You can't tell me if you've ever looked at any OTC stocks and really hot OTC runs that Tilray's chart does not look like any OTC chart that has run to the moon before. And their PRs are similar as well.
They are. It looks like its predecessor. I think it was it CVSI? Do I have the right ticker there?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is. Put CVSI. Take the. Is it the y-axis that price is on? I'm going back to my old grammar school subjects here. Take the y-axis away. Just look at the chart, and CVSI and TLRY actually eerily similar.
CVSI just had a better dead cat bounce.
Yeah, that's right.
OTC is easier to do that with.
Yes, completely. That is definitely true.
But yeah, that's what we're looking at. I mean, they put out a PR yesterday after hours saying we have shipped marijuana to Australia. It's like, oh my gosh, I think Mexico did that back in the 1800s. Congratulations.
Yeah, you know how I said earlier I was making fun of Interexon because some 14-year-old in Poughkeepsie is also able to grow weed. He's also able to make it. He can produce it.
Yes.
Well, TLRY, I'm pretty sure there's some guy who was in Boulder, Colorado, who was able to send it to Australia at some point in time. That's the city I'm going to pick. And it was probably on one of those deep web websites where he sold it like an ounce of weed. So that's who I'm grouping you in with now.
Yeah, except for what's their current market cap, like $9 billion?
Oh, yeah, that whole thing. Yeah. It actually still is. Even after all this, it's got to be in that range. Because when we were first talking about, oh my God, they're higher than Dunkin' Brands, they're higher than JetBlue, it was at the same price it is right now. So yeah, they're actually probably about 10 billion at this very moment. I'm looking at 115.03 by 115.36. We'll peg it to the bid and say 115.03. That would put them at over 10 billion.
I think we're going to look back on this and see that they orchestrated one of the greatest pump and dumps ever.
I think that somehow we'll discover something in that vein, yes. It will not just entirely have been that retail was idiotic. There was more to the story than that.
Yep. But as long as they don't break any laws, they're going to be able to raise cash till the end of time.
Yeah, I mean, God, I guarantee you not necessarily the JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs's of the world, but the Stifel, the HC Wainwrights of the world. They are just like, wow, this is going to make for some awesome secondaries. I can't wait. Yeah. Every which way. Lincoln Park Capitals of the world, the Savvies, they're all going to love this. So, yeah, good for them. It'll be interesting to see where they are a month from now, assuming that the weed mania really fizzles out. Because we were just talking, we were laughing on our last episode, but on the day of that recording, it had touched 300, and here we are, with a 115 bid at the moment.
So it's October 17th that weed gets legalized in Canada, right?
I don't know the exact date. I'm sure it's approximately that.
I'm pretty sure it's October 17th. So is that just going to be a huge sell the news day?
Is that the greatest sell the news day of all time? That's a good point. It's not like you're just going to be open. It's like, hey, by the way, every single Canadian ever maxed out their credit card on pot today.
Well, currently in Canada right now, you can walk into a dispensary. I saw my buddy do it in Vancouver. You can walk in. They ask what your ailments are. You say, I've got tendonitis in my elbow. And they say, great, come on in. Or I'm feeling a little anxious today. Come on in. There's no difference between that and going in, just, hey, I can go into a store and not have to fill out that form.
Right. There really is no difference. Effectively, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's basically what California was like 7 years ago.
Exactly.
Yep. Yeah. That is going to be. That could definitely be a sell the news day. I think that's a very interesting perspective you bring up. Generally speaking, the first round of pot runners, I'm a bear on going forward. I do think we'll see some pot PRs that will make for strength in the interim over the next few weeks.
Yep. But yeah, a lot of these names I will look forward to shorting their PRs as they come for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I hope that we keep this little low float mania, because I'm sure some stocks who will follow that model and really try and PR, use the share structure and move themselves on up.
Yep. And speaking of shorting stocks, we're going to have AIP trades on the show either tomorrow or this weekend. But sometime later this week, we should be able to get an episode out with an interview with AIP. It'll be one of many. He's a good friend of both of ours.
One of the best fundamental traders in the microcap space.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. It'll be really exciting to have him on for sure.
Yeah.
And we still have JM from All Day Holds in the future too.
JM is coming on next week.
Yeah, we weren't lying in the first episode when we said JM's coming on. That was actually serious. He will be on. Just hasn't been on yet.
Scheduling conflict.
Yes, that happens. But yeah, we definitely have those two guys coming on. It'll be exciting stuff. They both, in two totally different realms too. They both offer a ton of value.
Yes.
Yeah. But with that said, I think we covered most of what's out there. I think most of the microcap market has been uneventful aside from what we covered. If you guys have any stocks you want us to get into, feel free to tweet at us, email us, give us feedback, tell us we suck, tell us we're great. I don't know. Don't follow our trade ideas. Remember that. Read the disclaimer on underpdt.com. And thanks for checking in. Hopefully we get some more of you guys as we go. And happy trading the rest of this week.